Hi guys, and welcome to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing Natural Magic. So it's The Witch of the Forest's Guide to Natural Magic. Discover your magic to connect with your inner and outer world, and it's by Lindsay Squire and it's been illustrated by Viki Lester. So this book was sent to me by Leaping Hare Press in exchange for a review. So I'm really excited to be reviewing this one just because it is such a beautiful book on the inside as well as the outside. So I will show you a few sneak peeks of the inside as well. So let's get straight to the review. As usual, I'm going to start with a little bit of information about the author and the illustrator. So Lindsay Squire considers herself to be an eclectic witch, practicing traditional witchcraft for over a decade. She lives in Yorkshire in the UK, which is exciting for me because I'm also a Yorkshire witch. She is passionate about helping and empowering witches at the beginning of their journeys. Lindsay is the person behind the popular Witchcraft Instagram account at The Witch of the Forest, which offers helpful infographics about different aspects of the craft. Moving on to the illustrator, Viki Lester, also known as Forensics and Flowers, is the illustrator behind the beautiful cover and the images throughout the book. She is from London. Her work is described as inspiring people to feel magical and features positivity with a dark botanical twist. She has illustrated lots of other books as well, and I love her artistic style. It's the perfect witchy aesthetic. I'll just share a little bit with you about the book itself. So I'm going to just quickly read the blurb so you know what it says on the back. So it says, whether you're an out and proud witch in progress or a witch in the broom closet, this spellbinding beginner's book will teach you everything you need to know to connect with your natural magic. Guided by the Witch of the Forest, this magical introduction to getting started in the craft is overflowing with simple spells, tips, tricks and rituals, all using simple tools and ingredients that you can find in your cupboards or from foraging. Discover the abundance of magic to be found in the natural world and release your power. Learn how to use magic to change your life and embrace the modern witching hour. So as you can probably tell from the blurb, the book features a lot of information about getting started in the craft. So using witchcraft for self-care and your well-being. It features information about the wheel of the year, the moon and nature, spellcraft, colour and candle magic, herbs, divination and sigils. So it's literally all the things that you need and all the things that you would expect to find in a book for beginners. So let's move on to a few of my thoughts about the book itself then. I think this is definitely the ultimate book for people who are just starting out on their witchcraft journey. As soon as I started reading the opening, which is about exploring beginner questions, it's called Things to Know, I knew that it was going to be really reassuring and just perfect for people who might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed with where to start with witchcraft. At the beginning, Lindsay also talks about learning and reading and using your own initiative to research, and this is the best advice for beginners. It's where I started. People might disagree, but I think that this is the only place to start really with your reading and with your research into the topic. If you don't like the sound of that, then maybe the witchcraft path is not for you. I know that that might sound a little bit harsh, but with all learning, there's going to be some research and reading involved. I know that there are going to be people out there that just don't get along with that way of learning, and you might be someone who just generally dislikes reading, but then again, I don't know why you'd be watching a book review if you didn't really like reading. But ironically, this book is really good for those people that might not be big readers. As I said, it's extremely visual. There are a lot of images and diagrams, and anything that is said in the longer sections of text is broken down into key points and illustrated, so it's very accessible for non-readers if that makes sense. I think that this visual and infographic style is one of the reasons that Lindsay's Instagram account, The Witch of the Forest, has done really well. If you follow her on Instagram, then you're going to be familiar with this style, and if you do like that, then you are definitely going to enjoy the book because it follows that very familiar style. The book is beautifully organised and presented, with most of the information being a page per topic, so it's, like I said, very accessible. It takes a very traditional stance on the craft, but it does make it clear that you can deviate from that, making sure that you're following your own intuition and following a path that's right for you. As I mentioned, it covers all of the foundational stuff that you need to know, and that will eventually become second nature to you. There's things like the elements and their correspondences to the cardinal directions, then it links those to the colours, and eventually you'll start to understand what elements work best for different kinds of magic. And one thing that I really did appreciate was the idea that tools are not necessary and that our intent is the main tool that you will need. It is a huge part of the craft. Everything else, the tools, the ingredients, the crystals, they all just complement our intentions. There are some more in-depth sections in the book, so things like the Wheel of the Year and working with the Sabbats and the phases of the moon, as well as an explanation of the meaning of each Sabbat and why we celebrate them. It also provides us with ideas of what you can do in order to honour and celebrate each festival. It even does this for witches that are in the broom closet, so if you are keeping your witchcraft sort of to yourself at the moment, then it provides you with more low-key and subtle things that you can do to honour the Sabbats. A little note is that Lammas and Beltane are the wrong way round in the little image for the Wheel of the Year. I mean, it's not major, it's something that you can sort of overlook because they're the right way round in the later pages, but it's just something worth noting. I'm not sure if people would find that a big deal or not. A couple of my favourite sections then, one of which was about eco-witchcraft. I believe that all witches should aim to be eco-friendly, and as Lindsay says in the book, it's counterproductive to harm the very power that you want to work with, and I think that that perfectly sums up what a witch's view of nature and the planet should be. Witchcraft is an earth-based, nature-based craft, so it's sort of an unwritten rule that we need to look after our planet. Another really great section was Spellcraft for Beginners. It covers all of the basics again, yet it's got some really important information about spell work. So Lindsay refers to them as common mistakes that people might make when it comes to spell work, but I just think that it's really great sort of general advice about creating good spells and managing your expectations when it comes to the outcomes of those spells. For example, you can't just cast a spell and expect that it will work. There is a lot more to it than that. So that section will really help to just ensure that you are getting the best results from your spell work. This section also looks at different types of spells, so things like sprays, spell jars, pouches, brewing teas, etc. But it is worth noting that you can cast spells that don't involve creating something physical. It can be more of a performative action, if that makes sense. So don't limit yourself to just those types of spells. In terms of presenting a balanced review then, I've got a few little nitpicks, and they are nitpicks. So firstly, some of the pages in the book are a glossy black, and they pick up finger marks really easily, which is a little bit annoying. Maybe I just have oily fingers, I don't know, but it's just, I just don't really like it when I get those sort of finger marks and prints on my book and they won't come off. But like I said, just a nitpick. A few other things to mention is that the information on grimoires and Book of Shadows was slightly disappointing for me. I think it's good that it explores the distinction between the two, so what is a grimoire and what is a Book of Shadows, but there are not really any specific examples of how to go about setting one up or how to organise one. There are some ideas of what to include, but I do know that a lot of people would prefer more specific guidance, especially with things like journaling in your Book of Shadows. Also, this is one of the only sections that doesn't really provide a visual example. Another thing that people might want to consider is that the author mentions that deities are not part of her personal craft. She does talk about how they fit in with maybe a pagan or a Wiccan path. When I first started, deities weren't really a major part of my craft. It just didn't feel right. However, as my craft developed, I did find that I had more space available for them, and I've recently started working with gods and goddesses. If you think that deities are going to be a part of your practice, then you will probably need a different book or some other resources to find out how to incorporate them into your craft. Another thing that I would have liked to have seen is a specific section on grounding. I think that it would have fitted in nicely with a lot of the other things that are covered in the book. For example, there's a section on cleansing, and I think that cleansing and grounding really complement each other. Grounding is mentioned a few times within the book, but there's no real detail about what it is or guidance of how to do it, so that might be a little bit confusing for some people. However, it is something that you can go away and research. Okay guys, I just want to sum up a few of my final thoughts about the book then. So firstly, it is absolutely perfect for beginners. I mean, that is the point of the book, but it is genuinely a great place to start, especially for learning about practicing traditional witchcraft in a modern world. It includes everything that you would hope to find in a witchcraft book for beginners, and yet still leaves you that space to go away and develop your own areas of interest. If you are a seasoned witch, then you will probably know all of the information that's in the book, but I did still enjoy it. The information is presented in such a lovely way through the images and the diagrams. For me, it was really reaffirming of a lot of my witchcraft knowledge, and for newbies, I don't think that it would be overwhelming at all. I did mention this earlier, but I think it's worth mentioning it again, that it is a really accessible book. It's in no way gatekeepy or preachy. Lindsay is an authoritative voice on the topic, obviously due to her experience, but she comes across as very friendly, more like a guide or a mentor, and I definitely think that it's one of the better beginner books. Okay, that's it for today's review, guys. I hope that you found it useful. The book is already out. It came out on the 21st of September, so I already know that there's a few people out there with their copies. Let me know what your thoughts of the book are. Did you love it? What didn't you like about it? If you've not checked it out yet, is it something that you would consider buying, or is it a book that you think would be interesting for you? Just let me know your thoughts. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.